For the last few days, the internet has been trying to figure out what in the world happened to Jim Carrey. Was he replaced? Is he having a midlife crisis?
Probably.
Or is this just celebrities being celebrities? While most people are struggling to figure it out, they don't seem to realize Carrey warned us about this almost 30 years ago. While The Truman Show might seem like just another classic movie, in reality, within it lies the answers to exactly why Jim Carrey is unrecognizable today. Once you uncover what this movie is truly about, a lot of what these celebrities do will make a whole lot more sense.
I was thrown into this expansive, amazing feeling of freedom from myself, from my problems. I saw that I was bigger than what I do. I was bigger than my body. I was everything and everyone. I was no longer a fragment of the universe. I was the universe. And ever since that day, I've been trying to get back there.
Wow.
The Truman Show follows Jim Carrey as Truman, the star of a reality show he doesn't even know he's on. Since he was a baby, he was the property of a TV studio, growing up in the fictional town of Sea Haven in front of a 24/7 global audience. To Truman, this was reality, but to the world, he was just entertainment, unknowingly trapped in a false world built to exploit him for the masses' amusement. That all changed when a studio light fell from the sky, the first crack in his perfect reality. From that moment on, the world began to unfold. Truman realized his life was a lie and tried to flee, only to be stopped at every turn by the system itself. Eventually, Truman realized the only way to escape is to outsmart the system. He uses his own routine to trick the studio staff, setting up a distraction that allows him to vanish. By the time the control room realizes he's gone, he's already sailing a boat towards the edge of the dome. He reaches the horizon, climbs the staircase to the exit, and finally steps out the false world. While on the surface, the movie seems pretty straightforward, most people fail to see the deeper, more esoteric meaning behind the story. But
now that I think of it, there's a Black Mirror episode like this, sort of styled after the Truman Show.
believe it or not, this entire film was the blueprint for an ancient secretive spiritual system called Gnosticism. The entire story was inspired by the Gnostic story of creation. Now, this system has a deep lore that I can't go into here without taking up the entire video. But I have a full breakdown linked in the description for those who want to dive deeper. To put it simply, Gnostics believe the physical world we live in is actually a prison, a matrix, designed to trap the human soul. They believe this world wasn't made by the true creator, but by a false god called the Demiurge or Yaldabaoth. In the movie, the director Christoph represents this false god, watching Truman from the sky and controlling his every move. Just like Christoph exploits Truman for a TV show, they believe Yaldabaoth exploits humanity to justify his desire to be a god. The goal of Gnosticism is to achieve gnosis, which is just a fancy word for knowledge or waking up. They believe once you realize the world is a stage, you can free your spirit and return to the true source. While Gnostics refer to Jesus, they see him differently. They don't worship him as a deity, but as a guide, showing humanity how to escape. To a Gnostic, the goal isn't to follow a god, it's to realize they are one. Every character in the Truman Show represents a Gnostic figure. Truman is the true man, the spirit. Christoph, the director, is Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, who keeps the spirits trapped in a false world. Sylvia represents Sophia, the spirit who tries to warn humanity that they're imprisoned. Just like they believe Sophia tries to wake humanity up, Sylvia tries to warn Truman that his life is a lie. The fake town represents the Matrix itself, and the fake townspeople act as the Archons, spirits created by the Demiurge to keep the soul trapped in the Matrix. In the movie, the actors do exactly that. They stick to the script and physically prevent Truman from escaping. This entire film captures Truman waking up in 3 stages that mirror the Gnostic path. First is realization, the moment he understands his world is a matrix. This begins with 2 key events: the flashback where Sylvia warns him his life is a lie, and the moment a stage light falls from the sky. In Gnostic lore, this mirrors the spirit Sophia descending from the heavens to warn humanity of the trap. While the Archons, the fake townspeople, initially stop Sylvia from waking him, the falling light sparks a memory that makes her warning finally click. This leads to the next step, clarification. Now that Truman sees the cracks in the system, he is desperate to find the way out. He tries the only way he knows how, buying a plane ticket and trying to drive out of town. But the Archons, the actors, block him at every turn. While he knows he's trapped, he still lacks the gnosis or the hidden knowledge required to actually break free. This stage of clarification is his struggle to understand the rules of the prison so he could eventually subvert them. Finally,
like
by
Earth.
facing his greatest fears and outsmarting the townspeople, he achieves gnosis and finds the door that leads out of the Matrix forever. This climax is represented by Truman sailing to the edge of the dome, finding the stairs of enlightenment, and finally confronting the demiurge. This entire sequence feels ripped straight out of Gnostic teachings, which describe how the heavens will fall and break into two, and the abyss will be overturned as the light withdraws. The ultimate tearing of the sky, which is represented by the door at the end of the film, is a literal enactment of this Gnostic prophecy, where the false sky crumbles to reveal the ultimate truth. You can't deny that this movie is a retelling of the Gnostic journey. But what most people don't realize is that this also explains Jim Carrey's real-life transformation perfectly. While Truman was simply a character Jim Carrey played, the story mirrors his real-life beliefs to a T. Carrey
Engineers
has
are
actually
busting.
admitted to following the Gnostic path, and in this interview, he openly discussed being a Gnostic and participating in the sacred secretion, a technique used to unlock gnosis. He specifically mentions Gnosticism and alchemy by name.
Do you know that the story, Jesus, how it's been altered in certain ways? I mean, yes, there's a guy, yes, there was teachings, all that stuff, but there's 33 vertebrae in your spine. There's 33 years in the life of Jesus. There is a substance or liquid or a substance that comes from your medulla, which is basically completely looks like the Ark of the Covenant. Has an eagle's wings around it, the whole thing. So this substance comes from your medulla, makes the trip down your spine to your sacrum, which is Christ coming down into human form. And if you don't squander that essence, the sexual essence, it ascends again and then goes back up to heaven, which is your thing. Actually, Gnosticism is really about.
Revealing that just
wild.
like Truman, he is attempting to achieve gnosis and ascend both physically and spiritually. Gnostics believe that once a spirit ascends, the body undergoes an ultimate transformation, one that Carrey seemingly revealed during the Caesar Awards. Now, I know stories have been spreading like crazy that a makeup artist
Looks
took
Mexican.
credit for dressing up as Carrey and crashing the show, but that was just cloud chasing. Both the Caesar Awards representatives and Carrey's own publicist confirmed it was indeed Jim Carrey at the event. He wasn't being replaced. He was showing us the results of his transformation. Now, I'm not saying Jim Carrey has actually ascended or become a god. I don't believe that at all. Personally, I don't believe in Gnosticism, nor do I think these techniques are effective. But for obvious reasons, many celebrities and members of the elite do. I believe it's because it allows them to feel superior, not just because of their wealth, but because they believe they've unlocked secret knowledge that regular people can't access.
You have not,
It's the
sir.
spiritual equivalent of buying a luxury item no one else can afford. Jim Carrey essentially admitted he completed this great work in Gnostic code during his acceptance speech. He told the audience his ancestor was a square, but that tonight he was coming full circle. This is the oldest alchemic riddle in history. Squaring the circle, it represents the physical,
no.
the square, finally
Illuminati.
merging with the spiritual, the circle. He was telling those who know the code that his great work was finished and he had achieved ascension. In alchemy, a branch of
Masonry
Gnostic
things.
teaching, this is literally represented by a square and a circle inside a triangle. What he said wasn't a random
rock.
coincidence. In fact, he even admitted he spent months writing and preparing that specific script. While I don't believe Gnostic techniques cause a literal physical change, I believe Carrey might have gone as far as getting surgery to look the part of an ascended being. Gnostics believe that true gnosis changes you in every way, but because their spirituality is superficial, no actual physical change is achieved without surgical intervention. In my research on the great work and techniques like sacred secretion, I discovered that they believe achieving this state can take a lifetime. I don't think it's random at all that Jim Carrey played Truman, a character on a Gnostic journey, only to later admit he is a Gnostic himself. This shows you how the truth is often revealed through these films. I believe The Truman Show didn't just mark the beginning of Jim Carrey's massive success. It was his initiation into the secret religion of Hollywood. That movie was the very moment he began his decade-long journey towards the great work. The Truman Show was warning us that this is what Jim Carrey was into from day one. Now, I want to address the popular
Rock!
idea that Jim Carrey was exposing the industry or acting as a
What the
rebel.
fuck was
Some
that?
people believe he was
That's
blackballed
nasty.
because he called a red carpet event meaningless, claimed he didn't exist, and said he was following Christ. But this wasn't Carrey warning us. This was the Gnostic mission. Gnostics believed that once they ascend, they must become like Sophia and try to wake up others.
Who's
What Jim was
Sophia?
doing wasn't anti-industry, it was pro-Gnosticism. When he told people that Jim Carrey doesn't exist, he meant that Jim Carrey, like the rest of the Matrix, isn't real. It mirrors the idea of killing off the ego and accepting that your previous reality was a lie. Even when he mentioned following Jesus, he was referring to the Gnostic concept of Jesus, an archetype of ascension, not a deity to be worshipped. Jim wasn't trying to save you from Hollywood. He was trying to plant Gnostic seeds in his fans' minds because his religion commands him to. The writer of The Truman Show, Andrew Niccol, seems to be on that same Gnostic mission. His other films like Gattaca, about escaping genetic predestination, and In Time, about transcending
I
a
like that
system where
movie,
time is the
Gattaca.
prison, all mirror the Gnostic idea of the soul breaking free from the material constraints. These movies are designed to plant the Gnostic seed.
I haven't watched
Now,
this.
I think a full breakdown on those movies would be a good idea, so that we can see how the Gnostic story is told through those films.
Do
If
it.
you want to see that, comment Gnostic films below, and if enough of
Gnostic
you are
films.
interested, I'll make sure that's the next video. Now, everyone has a right to believe what they want, and I'm not here to trash talk their ideas, but I do want to point out the biggest flaw in this system, the
Yes.
idea that man can become God through secret knowledge. When I think of God, I think of biblical Jesus, who willingly sacrificed himself on the cross to free humanity from sin. He gave his life so others could live. In contrast, those who pretend to ascend and become gods tend to be some of the most selfish people on the planet. Many of these celebrities constantly use this imagery to hint at their transformation, yet they remain self-centered. They make millions of dollars a year, but instead of using that wealth for selfless deeds like a true God would, they spend it on massive homes and luxury items that only benefit themselves. They could easily feed the needy, but they don't. Man cannot be God. We are simply too concerned with our own self-preservation. Jim Carrey is just another one of those celebrities. But before we wrap up, I want to point out a few more comparisons that prove The Truman Show is directly about Gnosticism. First, if you haven't noticed yet, Christoph is a play on Christ. This represents who the Gnostics call the false god. See, Gnostics believe the God of the Christian Bible, Yahweh, is literally the demiurge, Yaldabaoth, they warn about. Since Jesus Christ is seen as God in human form, naming the director who enslaved Truman after him is their way of saying Christ or Yahweh is a false god.
Nah, that's
Another
crazy.
thing I noticed about Christoph was where his studio room was located. While Christoph's voice seems to come from the heavens, his actual headquarters is hidden inside of the moon. This isn't just a creative choice. In Gnostic and esoteric belief, the moon represents the first gate, or an observation station used by the demiurge to oversee the prison of Earth. By placing the control room in the moon, the film is visually telling you that the eye in the sky is a false god, operating from the very peak of the firmament. In Gnosticism, it is the ultimate checkpoint designed to keep the spirit from ever looking past the stars to see the truth. Then there is the studio light that falls from the sky, the one labeled Ceres. In Gnostic and esoteric thought, Ceres represents the true sun or the spiritual source of light, as opposed to our physical sun. When the light crashes into Truman's world, it represents the true light breaking into the false world.
Wow.
Esoterically, Ceres is known as the dog star, and if you flip dog, you get God. Its rising historically marked the dog days of summer, a period of
Combusting my
intense
brain.
heat and catastrophe where the comfortable order of life breaks down. In the film, the light falls on a perfect day, scorching Truman's reality and forcing him out of his complacency. Ancient traditions even associate Ceres with Sophia, the divine spark that falls into the material realm to give humanity the knowledge needed to escape. But as I said before, while these celebrities play at being gods, their lives of extreme luxury and self-interest tells a different story. They claim to have found gnosis, but true enlightenment isn't found in a secret code or surgical transformation. It's found in the truth that we are not gods, and we were never meant to be.
What are we?
Hollywood will continue to reveal these truths in plain sight, using films like The Truman Show to plant seeds in the collective consciousness. But it's up to us to see the cracks in the dome. Now, if you want to dive deeper into the ancient system,
I just think at the end of the day, it's like, hey, these people who think this are crazy to me. It's just like, if you think you're some god, some ancient Egyptian mummy, or I don't know what you think you are, bro. I just think you're lost, and I think you're deluded. I think you need help, and you just need to find Jesus, bro, because this is not the way, Jim Carrey. You know, I don't know if he's doing that or not. I don't know Jim Carrey, but I hope that he finds Jesus. That's all I can say, bro. What can I say? I don't know about these flipping Illuminati, Masonic Forge brothers. Combinate. Like, comment, and subscribe to Boy Dways on Blaze. I'll catch you in the next one. And 10K giveaway is on the way. We almost at 10K. Like, comment, and subscribe. One lucky subscriber will be receiving a cash prize at 10K. Only the people who be in the comments. And y'all don't be commenting these days. Shut up.